Good morning. This is Coach DC from All 22 Films, and this is going to be a film study with some commentary about Mark Andrews. He's obviously produced a lot in an 8-year career in Baltimore. He ended up being, the last tight end standing, so to speak, among the trio of Andrews, Likely, and Charlie Kolar, at least in a Ravens uniform. Both of those guys signed lucrative free agent contracts to move on. Andrews' 2025 numbers, his output, it certainly wasn't overwhelming. But with a new offensive coordinator, staff, scheme, and Declan Doyle and what he's going to bring over, 3 new tight ends between Smythe, the veteran, and then the 2 rookies. Andrews should be expected, I think, to at least meet and probably exceed those season-long stats from 2025. This will be a look at what I think Andrews did well, what he could presumably still execute this season, which will be obviously the first under Doyle, but for Lamar and Mark Andrews, it'll be their 8th season operating together, but the 7th in a row where going into camp, everyone knew that Lamar was going to be the starter. There's a lot of patterns that still kind of held or hold when you look at the 2025 film for Andrews, where he lines up and where he ends up attacking. He'll be spot shadowed generally in red, and I'll try to put a nameplate above him as much as possible. This is a win into the boundary against Alex Anzalone, an inside linebacker that the Lions often used in their 2-man look, and that's what you're getting here. This ends up being a scheme that I talked about a lot after that Week 3 matchup, a 3+1 from a pass rush standpoint with cover 2 man, meaning these 2 safeties are helping cover up or support man-to-man defenders who are lined up at the line of scrimmage. In this case, Lamar knows where his best matchup is, quickly goes to Andrews. I don't want to say easy win, but it's a 3rd and goal. And this, to me, was a little bit of taking advantage of that coverage in a way early on for the Ravens. We end up tying the game here, I think 7-all. Wish we could have done more of this. Basically, isolate Andrews into the boundary, or Likely, I should say, into the boundary against Anzalone. As an aside, and I've said this in Lions videos, I wonder, speculate, if Detroit didn't have a strategy there, an overriding strategy, which basically was, let's show you, as the offense, Anzalone manned up on your tight end and elicit more targets here than 4 or 2, I guess I should say, your number 1 or even number 2 receiver. I'm not sure I explained that in a way that makes sense. This is the same play from the end zone angle. Like I said, it's a 3rd and 9, and it's a 3+1 scheme in terms of how they're going to get after Lamar. You do have 5 play. We're omitting Anzalone here from this spot shadow. We're talking about these 5 defenders here, 3 of which are going to rush, 1 of which, Jack Campbell, is going to play man-to-man on the running back, and the 4th, Nowaski, kind of a hybrid inside linebacker, outside linebacker for Detroit. He's just going to sit and spy. So why do I go through all that? Well, there's no pressure on Lamar, right? He knew where he was going to go with the football, went there quickly, got the ball out. It was 2-man, recognized his matchup or his preferred matchup, and even at that level, right, Alex Anzalone is a really good football player, and he's done some great things, some great things in Detroit since moved on to Tampa Bay to kind of replace Levante David. The margin for error is still small. Lamar put it on the spot. Andrews makes the catch, able to curl and support the ball properly or correctly with his inside shoulder and then roll while holding on to the football. Is a great play. He did have 5 receiving touchdowns in 2025. The 1 rushing touchdown I'll show to you at the end. But the reality is the catch percentage dropped down to 68.6. Officially 48 catches on 70 targets. His most inefficient games were weeks 1 and 2 before this game against the Lions, where I think he was 6 for 6 catches to targets. But weeks 1 and 2, he has 2 catches for a total of 7 yards. And then later on in the season, the first matchup against the Steelers, he was 1 of 5 catches to targets. If you were to omit those 3 games, his catch percentage would be pretty much in line with what we had seen entering 2025. A really cool play that I can't necessarily call an adaptation. He's going to beat the rookie or 2025 rookie Dante Trader, who some of you may or may not know is from the Maryland area. Originally played high school football and lacrosse in Delaware, and then transferred to McDonough School right down the road, I think, from where the Ravens practice in Owings Mills. But in any case, they're going to make this look like mesh over, like a mesh concept, and then Andrews, maybe you can call it a conversion. He's going to instead of taking this route across the field, and Trader is trying to follow him or track him across. As an aside, on the opposite side of the formation, Hopkins is running a drag and under, and that is Minkah Fitzpatrick trying to chase him. Andrews instead shoots this route vertically up the field, and you can see what the effect of that is. Trader and Fitzpatrick kind of run into each other. They're playing it like mesh, and it is in fact mesh from the standpoint of where Hopkins is going. Hopkins is running a drag under route, but Andrews took his route and shot it up the field. Now the problem with that for me is the design has Bateman's route, you can see at the top of the screen, kind of almost in the path. And that's what to me means, this isn't necessarily a conversion or something we do. Let me rephrase that. It's not a conversion on the field. I think this is a call by Monken and the offensive staff. Andrews, he's winning against a rookie here, Dante Trader, who had a pretty good season for Miami. But can he win? I think the question is, can he win against the highest level coverage talent that he'll see in clutch moments? This one, I think, put us up 14-3 early in that win on the road. In fact, he had 2 touchdown catches that night. Another win here. This is early in the blowout loss to the Texans. This one's of a third down variety. This was clearly a very difficult game for the offense, and I didn't really, to be honest with you, go back and watch this whole game from an Andrews perspective. We were lost without Lamar out there on the field, number one. Number two, our O-line was completely overwhelmed and dominated, whether it was a run concept or a pass. But in any case, it's a 3rd and 5. The Texans are in a one-high safety structure, so you can see, the lone safety they've got set up deep, showing and playing man post-snap. Cool concept here for Cooper Rush or the quarterback to take advantage of. The idea is that you've got 2 in-breaking routes. The first one would be Andrews. The second here would be Likely. Likely's kind of veering more to the outside. But this safety, this one-high safety, is going to play a part in this delivery of the football. You can see Cooper Rush is looking to the middle first for Andrews. This will be option 1 here for him. Option 2, I guess the third option, or either of these guys being the third option, could be these kind of mirrored in-breaking routes by Flowers at the top and Hopkins at the bottom. That's not where Rush goes. He goes to Andrews over the middle. He's just always been good, he being Andrews. He's always been good at winning over the middle. Sometimes doesn't hold on to the football. That's an issue that we'll talk about a little bit as we go along here through the video. In this case, he actually does. It's a 3rd and 5, holds on to it. Something I do think that he could improve on, or maybe the new offensive staff could focus on and attempt to improve, not just for Andrews, but for our whole offense. And that's holding on to the football after contact, being more, well, to be blunt, more aware of the situation. In this case, it's a 3rd and 5, and Andrews actually held on. It didn't matter, right? This was halfway through the first quarter. I believe it's 7-0 Houston at this point. Of course, it ended up 44-10. This will give us a chance to kind of talk about, I don't know if I want to refer to it as ball security issues or control. It didn't matter here either. It was a blowout win over the Browns in week 2. I think it was 40-17 or 41-17. But this is an opportunity for a touchdown, and I think things like this show up, not just for Andrews, but for other players on our team over the last 2 or 3 or even more years beyond that, as far as holding on to the football or even turning it over, fumbling it away. As an aside, after this week 2 game, Andrews only had 2 catches for 7 yards total. This is a nice win and recognition from Lamar. Andrews is matched up against Delpit. It's the patented man coverage by Cleveland with Schwartz as the play caller, that is. Lamar's going to get the ball out really quick. I think Lamar is looking. You can see that the football was kind of spot shadowed there. Lamar was initially looking back here or to the top side. This safety walking down. We do have trips, 3 receivers to the right-hand side of Lamar, to the right-hand side of the offense, the bottom side of our screen. Ball is out really quick. Andrews got a clean win here. When you get the end zone angle, you can make a judgment for yourself. Are there times where the ball is thrown on the wrong side and a guy gets the football knocked away by a defender who's recovering because the location brought the defender back into the play? Yeah, that's possible. But I think Lamar's got this inside linebacker, I believe that's Devin Bush, in the window potentially, meaning if Lamar throws this too far out in front of Andrews, it almost kind of brings this defender into play. So I like the fact that Lamar got rid of it quickly here and kind of fit it between Delpit and Bush, even though there's a lot of space. In my opinion, more so an issue to talk about Andrews. If I was to refer to him as like a computer or a technological device, his default setting is like 96% ball security or 97, not 100, which is what you're looking for in critical moments, especially against the highest level competition that we'll see in the playoffs, the AFC Championship, or potentially a Super Bowl. This is the same play from the end zone angle. Pay attention to this safety here. I think it's Hickman. He ends up dropping down to the backside, away from the trips. And I think Lamar sees that. We're talking about where Lamar is looking right now as far as Bush and Hickman both kind of tracking the running back, Justice Hill. I think it's a mistake potentially by Cleveland. But in any case, you'll see what I mean. Lamar looked at them, confirmed, okay, they're out of the picture. Let me throw the ball in this window between here in such a way that it doesn't bring this defender back into play. Andrews has got the win. In my opinion, you got to secure this football. Does the throw bring the defender back into play? Yeah, but look where it is now. If the ball is located over here, it potentially brings this defender back into play. It's just an idea of a way for us, to recognize that wide open in the NFL, which is what Andrews was, is still a smaller window than it is at other levels. I think Andrews can and should be able to secure this football and finish the play, very similar to, like Isaiah Likely later on in the Week 18 loss to the Steelers. This is a chance. I think it's 10-3 at this point. Early third quarter, I believe I may have misspoke earlier. Could have been 17-3 here. Instead, we settled for a field goal. This one's another missed opportunity, but I don't think it's necessarily Andrews' fault. The reason why I'm showing it is to illustrate the margin for error that the Ravens didn't have in this particular loss to the Bengals at home in Week 13, but throughout much of 2025 because of O-line issues at times and personnel matchups at others. Cincinnati is showing a sticks blitz zero look here, okay, and it's a 3rd and 9, so we can get the first down if we get inside the 5 or just to the 5-yard line. Andrews on the right-hand side. I think that we've got the right pass pro here. I think we've got it set up well. Likely is going to be responsible for one of the edge rushers, one of the guys rushing off the right edge, and Andrews is running his patented route illustrated by that orange line emanating from the right-hand side of the offense, over concept. A little bit later, in-breaking route by Zay Flowers here. And up to the top, you've got an out-breaking route by Bateman against presumably a one-on-one into the boundary. And in my opinion, that's just to clear out space for Andrews to get over the top. I think Likely does a really poor job here. I'll be honest with you. I recognize that, he's blocking Miles Murphy, who played really well in that game, don't get me wrong. I never felt like Likely was super committed to blocking consistently. And this look here, do I think the ball's got to be out a little bit quicker? Yes, I do. Slightly quicker. And when I say that, I mean like 5/100ths of a second or something like that. Murphy is the guy who ends up getting a hand on the football. And I think part of that is because Likely just is not attacking him at all. He's not really committed to the block. I think a lot of Likely's attempts at blocking at times was just for show. Let me show some effort here, but not really commit to it. In any case, Lamar's trying to, or hopeful to get the ball, into this area here to Andrews. Again, that over route type of look. No impact, no force for Likely at all, and as a result, Murphy gets a hand on the thing. I do think Lamar could get rid of it slightly quicker, given the fact that Likely is getting pushed back into him. Should Likely do a better job? Yes. Do I think Lamar could get rid of it slightly quicker? I do. It's an opportunity for Andrews to get open and hopefully cut it down to a one-score lead. It was 26-14 at the time. My point here, to be honest with you, isn't necessarily about Likely and certainly not about Lamar. Really, to be honest with you, it's a very limited route tree that you see from Andrews. When you go back and watch the film, and I think I watched 44 or 42 of his routes from last year, you've got an over concept, a sail route, a fake over into a sail, which is just, like a deeper out route that turns into a high-low, which is underneath of a clear out route, I should say. And that's the same type of routes that Andrews has been running for years. Really, there's not been much evolution or advancement in his type of routes under Todd Monken. Here's an opportunity to talk about one that, look, albeit when I say a limited route tree, it's not to mean it's not effective, right? It's got some wins against some really good coverage guys. In fact, this one, he's matched up against Denzel Ward with the ball on the right hash. Andrews is essentially here playing the X. It's a 1st and 10 early in the win against the Browns. Obviously, I'll show his game-winning touchdown run from the tush push alignment a little bit later. That'll actually be the last play that I go over. So first you got motion. I believe it's Wester from the field into the boundary, top of our screen to the bottom, illustrated by that blue line. He'll basically run a wheel route, and that's Delpit, who's going to go with him from a one-high safety alignment. Normally what we would get with Andrews lined up on the right is that over route there. Very similar to what I showed you on 2 or 3 of the previous snaps, and a clear out concept to the field by the outside receiver, running that type of route, and then Andrews running onto the open space. In this situation, Andrews get his cleats in the ground as he gets to the hash, and then he'll bend this route back to the sideline, because Wester at the bottom of the screen is now running the clear out route. Basically, the typical route usage for Andrews dating back years, you have a clear out route, and then you'd have a second dig or in-breaking route behind him to give the quarterback another option. In this case, he brings it back to the bottom of the screen, and he wins. If I gave you the end zone angle, you'd kind of see a little bit more clearly the way this thing opens up, or the timing of it. What I'm talking about is Henry crossing Lamar's face and then releasing down here into the flats. And this inside linebacker, which I believe, again, is Devin Bush, he will match Henry's width. And as soon as he clears that space, we're talking about this linebacker matching the width of Henry, Lamar shoots the pass into that open lane now. Like I said, I didn't use the end zone angle. I guess I could have, just trying to give you an idea of what was there from a Lamar standpoint as far as what he saw. It's a really nice win, if you ask me, by Andrews against a really high-level coverage guy in Denzel Ward, who's a legit number 1 outside corner. Another win against man-to-man in that same Week 11 matchup against the Browns, albeit one that required some help in order to get it done. Again, I think it's Hickman, the safety, who will be into the boundary. I would like to see more of this, more of the shield or the pick routes. We are very organic, or we have been very organic in Baltimore under Todd Monken, and even under Greg Roman prior to that. And what I mean is almost kind of like, we're just going to beat you one-on-one. To use an NBA analogy, so many teams now, so many offenses at the NBA level, they just go pick and roll, pick and roll, pick and roll. They match up hunt and get one of their best 2 or 3 scorers against the weakest defender on the team, on the opposing defense. And that makes sense, right? It's efficient. They're searching for efficiency. They're searching for matchups. It's partially because nobody pressures the ball early in the shot clock, and so teams can get down there and they can run pick and roll 2 or 3 times or more because they're not initiating the offense inside of 12 or 10 seconds. But in any case, this is a really nice shield by, I think it's Zay Flowers into the boundary, getting in the way of Hickman, trying to expand with the out. It's another situation where Cleveland's really just showing us their coverage, man across the board, and then one high safety. The difference is they're bringing 5 instead of bringing 4 here. They've got someone responsible for the running back, and then you can see a 5-man rush scheme there. I know there's a lot of lines on the screen. Sorry for that, but it's easy access for Lamar into the boundary. I'd like to see more of it. Help guys get open. Shield, pick, rub routes, whatever. I feel like teams like the Chiefs, the Bills, among others, do a ton of this to help guys get open. It doesn't matter to me how we get a guy open, but I think to create more space through shield, pick, rub concepts, it just helps with efficiency. It helps create more high percentage opportunities for the quarterback and the receivers like Mark Andrews. This is a design play that I think will give us another chance to maybe talk about or reflect or disagree perhaps on Andrews' ability to secure the football quickly. It's a really nice design in my opinion. Second quarter, a little over 5 minutes left of the Week 8 home win over the Bears. Of course, Lamar did not play. So we're going to go basically 4 into the boundary as far as when the ball is snapped. Motion, Flowers across here. And when I say 4 into the boundary, I'm talking about Bateman, Andrews, the running back, which is Henry, and then Zay Flowers motioning across. The Bears are going to play cover 3, but they kind of push that cover 3 into the boundary. Really, this ends up being man to the field with Nashawn Wright, who's since gone to the Jets. I think he had 5 picks last year. I got a lot of film of him. I was really impressed. But in any case, it's 4 to the boundary, and the way that we're going to get or design Andrews open is Bateman's going to run, you guessed it, a clear out route. Seems like he does that a lot. Flowers in motion is going to hold the flat defender. So I'm talking about this guy here, Jaquan Brisker, basically expanding with Flowers, the horizontal nature of Flowers' motion, and then it's just a high-low on that defender. So there's the clear out of the boundary side corner by Bateman on the vertical. And then Flowers is occupying the flat defender here. He's kind of obscured by Andrews' nameplate. So we've just attacked cover 3 in a very efficient, clean manner. Andrews running kind of like a wheel, if you will, out and up, if you want to call it that. Ends up being a little bit over a 32-yard throw for Huntley. Huntley knew where he was going with the football here. In addition, you do have Hopkins a little bit late as the 4th option here. We're talking about, let me pull this back a little bit. Sorry, there's a lot of graphics on the screen. So you've got these options here. I don't think Bateman's really an option. And in fact, I'm not sure that Flowers really is, unless the flat defender Brisker was to get depth for some reason. But counting the, quote, options that are there, I think that's the only real one that we've got. We've got 3, and then Hopkins being the 4th one. They're moving across left to right or bottom to top on our screen. Really cool design. What I don't like about it is we go through all that effort to get you the football. And then, yeah, it's a nice job of the corner coming off of the vertical by Bateman. We're talking about here. I'm not sure if that's Stevenson or not. Coming off of the receiver, Bateman, and then knocking the football out. We go through all of that to get you open. And then you can't hold on to the football. That bothers me, to be honest with you, a little bit. I think that we've got to be better. How good is Andrews' ball security? How quickly does he get the football secure, for lack of a better word? I don't know if you agree with me. I got it at like 94, 96% compared to 100. But at that level, the difference between 94% and 100 isn't really 6%. The difference shows up in the biggest moments. We don't have one here. It's week 8 against the Bears, who didn't look like a potential NFC championship game type team there, but of course they were very close to it. Almost beat the Bears in that snowy game at home. This just it's still a 24-yard catch. It bothers me probably a little bit more than it bothers you. We cannot be so surprised by contact sometimes in terms of the arrival. It's very similar to a couple of other fumbles that Andrews had during his career. The one in the middle of the field against the Bills in the 2024 playoff game doesn't really line up with this one or look similar in any way, shape, or form. One point that I kind of felt like I noticed in 25 film and went back and watched some stuff from 24, Andrew's pretty good dealing with contact early in a play. Less so later on once he gets his hands on the football, like the play that I just showed you there against the Bears. 24 or 25-yard catch nonetheless goes down as his lone fumble of 2025. So this is an early down against, in the first quarter, in fact, I think our first possession against Detroit. They've gone down and scored on a long drive. Branch is the matchup here against Andrews. I will give you the end zone angle so you can see what I'm talking about. And I think this is designed to go to Andrews. It's a play action for Henry. Andrews matched up here up at the top side of the screen against Branch. Now he'll get jammed. Andrews will get jammed up by Derek Barnes. Lamar kind of ends up being moved off his spot slightly. There's a little bit of a vertical push by one of the DNs. I'll give you the end zone angle, and you can decide for yourself if you think it's enough to move Lamar off of his spot. But there's a ton of separation for Andrews here. I'm talking about between him and Branch. Part of it is the play action. Part of it is the blocking scheme that the Ravens utilized. I think this ball could be thrown a little bit more out in front of Andrews. Give him an opportunity to get more yards per catch. Brandt's going to catch him anyway. He's a spectacular football player. You guys probably know what I think of him. But Andrews does have some good wins against great defenders, Denzel Ward, Brian Branch, Grant Delpit, among others, just from 2025. Here he is sandwiched between those guys. I'm talking about Andrews. This is the same play from the end zone angle. It's their base 3-4, one high safety structure. I'm talking about Kirby Joseph being the lone high safety. And the way that this is going to work is it's play action. Watch how the Ravens block it as far as the way that Kolar helps out on Barnes. But Barnes is actually stepping to Andrews. So they're trying to jam Andrews up. They're trying to impede his release. And I think what that does is that confuses Branch for a moment. He thinks that Andrews is blocking. So as a result, his eyes are in the backfield. He's stepping downhill. And of course, that helps create more space for Andrews. And Lamar's releasing the football. I feel like we could get this ball out there a little bit more in front of him, more so into the top right of our screen, like the 2 o'clock, 1:30 position, if you will. Give Andrews a chance as opposed to asking him to slow up for it. But Brandt's going to catch him anyway. It's a really nice play design, if you ask me, against a one-high look. We'll do 3 more plays here, 2 of which are going to be against the Vikings. I do love the usage of this personnel group. So this is 23 personnel. And at one point, the Ravens had lined up in, a goal line formation with Kolar as the tight end to the right, and then Andrews and Likely as the tight ends to the left, Ricard set up in front of Henry. But because they had enough time on the play clock, the Ravens are able to shift. And when they shift to this, it's just a different flavor of a 23 personnel group. And I really like this from an Andrews perspective. So kind of cheating the system, if you will, in my opinion, because of the personnel matching. The Vikings are in their goal line defensive look, right? You have to be, right? It's 23 personnel, 2 running backs, and 3 tight ends. And what Baltimore does is put their weaker receiving threat from a tight end standpoint to the outside, and that's Charlie Kolar down here. The Vikings just don't have enough people to match up. If Metellus, the safety on the other side, doesn't move over and get his feet somewhere in this area, basically it's a 3-over-2 in the Ravens' favor. And the way that it's going to work out, it's a sprint out, essentially. Like I said, with the worst, or I don't want to say worst, that's a poor choice of words, the least talented of the 3 tight ends, Kolar being on the outside, he draws Harrison Smith, the safety. Again, the Vikings are in their goal line look, so they don't have an outside corner on the field at all. They're trying to stop the run. Obviously, it's against 23 personnel, And so as a result, Lamar sprints out. Van Ginkel is going to step up. It's a really easy touchdown for Mark Andrews, don't get me wrong, right? And in fact, Kolar is open as well. It's kind of like a snag here, and then Andrews bringing his route, not to the corner, but just to the back of the end zone. Lamar really smoothly catching the ball with his left hand. Easy touchdown for Andrews, don't get me wrong. I feel like sometimes the Vikings put too much on Metellus, but Flores' system is all about versatility, making things look like one thing and then having it actually be something else post-snap. In my opinion, they could be a little bit better for Metellus. You can't play 3 receivers, 3 eligible with 2. It's just not going to work, right? You need more defenders over there. In any case, the last 2 plays, I'm going to focus on Andrews' usage as a tight end / quarterback, the tush push, if you will. I didn't really go into his blocking a whole lot. I'll be honest with you, I found it to be inconsistent. I'm talking about Andrews. But to be up front, and I'll be very precise, is far better than Isaiah Likely. And I'm talking about from an effort standpoint, angle of approach, and to be even more direct and honest, desire. Isaiah Likely was a very poor blocker in 2025. In particular games after about like week 6 or week 8. I don't know if that's when he was offered a contract and then turned it down. I will say this. Isaiah Likely had more power as a blocker than Andrews does, so it's very interesting what we've got here on the roster for 2026 in Baltimore. 2 rookie tight ends, Smythe, obviously a pretty good blocker, someone who can play fullback, and then Mark Andrews. 2 really cool plays, if you ask me, here with Andrews as the tight end / quarterback, like I said. 3rd and 1, week 10 against the Vikings. Keep this in mind. We do go down. I may have the score wrong there. It might have been 12-10. But in any case, this is going to be 2 plays that I really like. And first of all, Credit to the Vikings for this look that they give in these tush push situations. Really it's just wedge, but people apply new names for stuff. In any case, I expect to see Andrews' usage continue here. He'll be on the field, right? But for Minnesota, one thing that they did, there are 11 players on the field. It doesn't look like it necessarily. Let's just illustrate it for you. There's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It looks like there's only 10, but we're going to zoom this in, magnify it a little bit, and you can see one of the helmets I counted was that one right there. But the Vikings have a defensive tackle who's laying on the ground. I'm sure that other people have covered it at this point. I actually talked about it after the game. It's designed to stop the wedge play or tush push, if you will. There are actually 11 players on the field. I'm a huge Flores fan. He does a lot of stuff that's very unique. But in any case, like I said, it's a 3rd and 1. I like the play concept for a lot of reasons. Henry is there as a lead blocker or to help Andrews if we do actually go tight end sneak or tush push. In this instance, he's leading out to the edge for Lamar. It's quarterback sweep, really. And Lamar kind of sells it like he could throw the football because you do have Tylan Wallace who runs by a second-level defender. Instead of blocking this second-level defender, Wallace kind of brings his route back to the outside. That holds the corner up there. In addition, you can see that Harrison Smith starts to communicate that Lamar could throw the football. It's guys kind of raising his hands up in the air. So it creates a ton of conflict. Another reason why I like this is because we're running away from Ricard. We're also running away from the mass of humanity that ends up on the ground because of that defensive tackle, defensive lineman who's turned to the side. And he's literally diving at Linderbaum's feet and then rolling, which is really cool, whether it's illegal or not. I don't care. I like the usage. For me, this is a great play call, and it could be that the Ravens have 2 play calls at the line of scrimmage for Andrews, which to me just really gives you an idea of how high the demands are for a tight end to be able to walk up and do this. Basically, what I'm saying is, let's say this defensive tackle wasn't laying here and getting ready to roll into Linderbaum's legs, and maybe they had another free safety. You'll see that kind of line up here in a moment, the last play that I show you. Then we may actually run the wedge or the tush push. In this case, because I'm offering to you, it's perhaps because the Vikings have the wedge / tush push covered, that we go to an outside run play. That may not be the way the Ravens do this. I'm only aware of this type of mentality. Everyone has 2 plays called often, or sometimes 3. Old option systems would sometimes have 2 plays called, inside veer or outside veer, or trap versus outside veer. Or they would have the play concept called outside veer, and then the quarterback had to pick the side to run it to. This will be the last play that I talk about. Obviously, these 2 are anomalous as far as Andrews goes, lining up at quarterback. But this is the very next week. There were issues in 2025 with our offense and a commitment to the run game. Well, the ability to commit to it, right? With all of our offensive line issues, Lamar's injuries, missing some time, obviously gave defenses an opportunity to focus on Derrick Henry even more. This is a great play call. I think there were like 85 or 87 players in the NFL in 2025 who had rushing touchdowns. I don't know if this next stat is accurate. 2 different AI systems, language models basically, were able to give me that 11 players, maybe 12, depending on which one I used. 11 or 12 players in 2025 had rushing touchdowns of 30 yards or more. Mark Andrews is one of them. This is a 4th and 1 tie game at 16-all against the Browns. And we've created horizontal conflict, extreme horizontal conflict, in fact, by Henry and Lamar going in the same direction, full flow, meaning quarterback, running back, same side. In this case, the quarterback is Lamar, who's set up as the deep running back. Very similar to the play from last week, the week before, I should say, against the Vikings. And in this case, the key for the Browns to potentially use it is Ricard, right? But the split flow is still stressing them. The gravity of Lamar and Henry is obviously very real. Talking about Hickman here, going with it, and then realizing I'm at a position. It didn't matter. We've essentially traded 2 for 3. Talking about these 2 players, Henry and Lamar, have attracted 3 defenders or pulled 3 defenders. And so there's no second level guy to get to Andrews at all. Kolar does a fantastic job here. I'm only going to give you the all 22 angle. Here's Kolar. Watch him first pin down to the inside on the defensive end because he knows where the play is going. Kolar, knows where the play is going. And then he's got his eyes up to the second level. I think it's Schlesinger who now gets picked off or sealed off. It's over. Since we were down a man up here, 2-on-3 in our favor away from the football, now we're 3-on-2 at the point of attack. Kolar, Ricard, and Andrews against those two defenders. Obviously, the math doesn't work for the Browns, but fortunately it does for us. No inside linebacker can get there to support, and Andrews is gone. Really cool moment, great play call. Somewhat anomalous, I know, but it's still reflective of some of the value and reliability that Andrews had in 2025, and then he can hopefully continue to offer. All right, so what can we expect from Andrews in 2026? I hope for more efficiency, first of all. Whether we get increased statistical production or not, which I think we will, I hope we just get better efficiency. Andrews is a savant at the routes that I just kind of showed you, and I think they are built into the Doyle offense. I'm on record as saying that I think it'll be more like the Ben Johnson attack in Chicago in 2025 and Detroit before that. By the way, those offenses featured tight ends. Let me go over some of the numbers here, tracking back to 2023. Sam Laporta gets drafted by the Lions in the second round, and as a rookie, has 86 catches and 10 touchdowns, 71% catch percentage. The next season, 2024, of course, Ben Johnson's last in Detroit. Laporta's numbers kind of go down a little bit, 60 catches, 7 touchdowns, but his catch percentage went up. It was almost 73. Detroit, of course, goes 14-3. Jameson Williams was more involved that year. Of course, they still had Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. 2025, Ben Johnson's first year in Chicago, 26 points per game, 25.9, so essentially 26, ninth in the NFL. Colston Loveland, the rookie tight end, he led the team with 58 catches on 82 targets and 6 touchdowns. He was actually more efficient than both DJ Moore and Rome Odunze, the talented receivers. They were 59% catch percentage and 49% catch percentage for Odunze. Loveland was 70%. Laporta in his first 2 years in Detroit was 71 and then 73%. And in fact, last year, even though Laporta got hurt in Detroit, very similar offense, he was 81% catch percentage. Cole Kmet last season, 30 catches on 48 targets, roughly 62.5%. It's basically 5 out of 8. If you combine the tight end numbers in Chicago in 2025, you've got 88 catches on 130 targets. Really nice, clean, 68% catch percentage. Why do I bring all that up? We need efficiency. We need efficiency from Andrews. We certainly are not going to get anything like 2021, when I think he had 103 catches on 140 targets or something like that. It should be noted that the most efficient guy in Chicago last year in terms of catches to targets was Luther Burden. 78% catch percentage while averaging almost 14 yards per catch. I think it was 13.9. My point is Doyle's offense will suit the tight end position. It would have been nice to have Likely and Andrews as options for sure. To me, it seems like pretty clear. Likely was offered a contract, turned it down, and then to some degree, parts of his performance, blocking and effort, seemed to dip later on in the season. I feel comfortable saying that, and I obviously could be wrong. That may not be the case. It just appears to show up more on film later on in the year as far as lack of effort and lack of focus at times. But you could say the same thing about Andrews with fumbles, right? The Bills playoff loss, fumbles/drops, I should say. Sometimes he doesn't secure the ball with enough sense of urgency. I think that's a real negative to his game. It's possible that was a coaching error or coaching miscalculations with the previous regime, whether that was Monken, whether that was Harbaugh, or both. I know that the overall number of fumbles, drops for Andrews may not be alarming. It may not be statistically significant to the rest of the league, but when you include Likely Flowers, my gut says that yes, to some level, at that level, the NFL level, with the margin for error being so small, I do tend to side towards the previous staff on offense for whatever reason, needing to focus more strategy, practice time, creative drills maybe towards reactions for our players to protect the ball. Running backs, tight ends. And I don't know, I'm saying that, I don't know what our fumbles were compared to the rest of the NFL during regular season play and the playoffs. I'm talking about in the biggest critical moments. In my opinion, our team has our ball security, the ability to protect the football, whether it's just a random 3rd and 5 or at the goal line, it has failed us multiple times. I'm talking about, Huntley in the 2022 road loss to the Bengals, Flowers fumble at the goal line, 3 inches from a touchdown in the AFC Championship game in 23. Lamar's had turnover problems at times in the playoffs that are, well documented. Andrews fumble and then the drop against the Bills. I'm really more so focusing this criticism on position players, not really the quarterback, but globally. My guess is it's something that Doyle and Mentor confronted head on and recognized as an issue. I could be wrong. Maybe it wasn't for them. Maybe it's just normal operation for an NFL team. I don't think so. I think Andrews has got to clean it up, basically. To have increased targets, if you look at the tight end stats, the pattern for Ben Johnson offenses, and then last year in 2025, and you accept my assertion that Doyle's going to run an offense similar to that, you're looking at a baseline of 60 catches for Mark Andrews, in my opinion, right? Loveland was at 58 last year on 82 targets. Laporta's low under Ben Johnson was 60. He had 86 in 2023. With Derrick Henry around, Zay Flowers, as well as some of the other receiving talent we have, I don't think we need Andrews to get to 80, 85 catches. And in fact, I don't think he will. In my opinion, he still has to clean up those ball security issues that I think show up a little bit too often. You could, of course, point to numbers and stats and say, Coach, he only had 1 fumble last year. I don't know how many drops. I think we can look for Andrews to have somewhere in the range of 60 to 68 catches, 8 to 10 touchdowns, which is really right in line with his 2024 numbers under Monken. The debate, or the point to debate, is whether or not we have enough depth there, right? Smythe and the 2 rookies. I really like Josh Cuevas. I actually think he's a more refined receiver than the other receiver. I don't think the film really shows any comparison between the receiving talent that those guys have, in particular who they went up against. But I understand why people would have a concern about the tight end position. I don't know what it would have taken to keep Isaiah Likely. In a perfect world, we would have kept both, but that's not how it worked out. In any case, if you guys enjoyed the video, please let me know in the comment section, number 1. If you think I missed any elements to Andrew's game, feel free to let me know in the comment section as well. And then finally, if you think other Ravens fans would enjoy this film study video that obviously had a lot of commentary at the end, I kind of intentionally saved the commentary at the end for the serious people who I think would hopefully enjoy it, or at least recognize it as food for thought. It's my honest opinion of Andrews based upon observations of the live games, the multiple film studies I've done over the course of the years, and then re-looking at the 2025 film over the course of the last week. If you guys enjoyed the video, please let me know in the comments section. Appreciate you guys' time.